You're watching once again a YouTube video presentation of the University of Wyoming Center on Aging. I'm Scott Veach. I'm your host, and on this program we'll be discussing topics of interest for caregivers of loved ones with dementia. We hope that you will subscribe to the channel and you'll hit that thumbs up like button. Both of those actions help the channel to grow and allow us to reach more people. And if you'll tap that notification bell, you'll be alerted each time we upload a new program. And now, this is Once Again. We're starting a new season of these Once Again programs, and we hope that you have been with us for at least some of the ones that we've had in the past. My guest today, Carol Taylor, we were talking just before we began recording that I think on our channel now we have 40 different episodes of Once Again. So we're putting together a pretty good library, and Carol has been a part of many of those programs. Carol, a licensed clinical social worker from Jackson. What other titles, what other honors and degrees should we put associate with your name?
There's too many to list. I don't want to eat up all that time.
I
So,
agree. I wasn't going to go there, but you did, so we're good.
yeah.
We've got, as I mentioned, we've got a whole new series of programs that we have scheduled for our Wyoming Dementia Together programs, and we've already set the schedule from now through June. And so Carol and I are going to take kind of a preview of coming attractions, some of the programs that we are particularly looking forward to. Carol, thanks so much for being with us again.
You
Um,
bet.
the first one coming up is going to be on February 12th, and we're going to be talking about the effects of social isolation and loneliness. And I really like that one because, I don't think that's a topic that is so often discussed.
Not often. However, in the recent past, probably the last 18 months or so, I've been hearing it coming up more and more and more, which is a good thing because as you think about social isolation and loneliness, it's sort of a hidden condition, right? So the fact that we're talking about it more is very, very important. And I'm not suggesting there's a correlation, but another important aspect of loneliness and isolation is loss of uh, conversational skills,
Mhm.
loss of social cues. Also, we know that the 90 plus age group is the second fastest growing age cohort for suicide and
Mhm.
depression. So it's very important that we're talking about this.
And I think also we can talk about it from the standpoint of the person who's been diagnosed and is living with dementia, but also for the caregiver. I mean, both are involved in this concept.
Absolutely. And it's very much like we say in hospice, the patient is not the unit of care, the family is
Yeah.
the unit of care. And it's so true in our dementia journeys together as well. And tending to the care partner as well as the beloved with dementia is vitally important. Absolutely.
I think back on my journey as a caregiver and some of the effects of social isolation. I don't know that I ever really would say that I had loneliness. There were times that I didn't like being alone, but I think that social isolation is really an easy trap to fall into. It's really an easy gutter to kind of fall into and tough to get out of because for me personally, and you can comment on this too, it was a thought, like it says, social isolation, thinking you were the only one, thinking that there was no outlet, that I didn't have anyone to talk to, that there was no one who understood. And for me, that kind of fostered a sense um, of self-defeat, of it's never going to change. It's always going to be like that. Those are some of the kind of the things that you run into also for the caregiver?
Well, Absolutely. And, when we do circle of care work that you've helped me with in the past, and we look at who is in that circle of care, and I'll say things like, what about the home delivered meals volunteer?
Mhm.
And the care partner will say, well, they can't come and sit with my husband for six
Yeah.
hours, right? No, they cannot. But who is in that circle? And I think of grandchildren from a distance, what they can do with coaching us on new technology and how to program my iPhone or whatever.
Right.
So I think there really is something for everybody. But I think we have to, first of all, as care partners, we have to recognize that this is bigger than we are. And in doing that, we can then begin creatively problem solving who else is on the team. And you think about isolation, and isolation is physical, but it's a psychological state of mind
Right.
as
Yeah.
well. And, in recent years, there's been a lot of talk among the experts, psychiatrists, psychologists, that loneliness and isolation may be an actual mental health
Right.
condition, a diagnosis requiring treatment. And I think that's fascinating, and I think it's about time.
Yeah, and I think too for me that um, the word that comes to mind as far as the emotional aspect was it fostered hopelessness. There wasn't anybody to say,
Absolutely.
"Hey, we can make it through this, and I'm going to be there with you." But that was an emotion that I had to fight regularly. Was hopelessness. It's always going to be like this.
Absolutely.
It's never going to change, and this will be my life forever. That's coming up February 12th. So we're going to be off to a great start. On March 12th, we're going to be talking about dignity in dementia care and
Mm,
aging etiquette. Wow, of
mm,
all the topics that I think
mm.
I've heard and seen discussed about caring for someone with dementia or a person living with dementia, I don't know that I've ever seen this one addressed before. Dignity in dementia care and aging etiquette. Man,
Mm.
both sides are certainly, no matter where you are in the timeline, deserving of dignity.
Exactly. Absolutely. And often it's difficult for a care partner to determine how much autonomy do I give my loved one with always safety first. I
Hmm.
mean, safety is always the bottom line. Autonomy is good too, but not if unsafe decisions or actions are taking place. So I think when we talk about dignity, we talk about a broad range of things. How, as I just said, how much do we engage our partner in decisions about the home, decisions about the property, decisions about things that may not be really in their purview right now,
Hmm.
but we can always give someone, always, a choice of, do you want the bright yellow sweater, or should you wear your blue windbreaker today?
Hmm.
Visual cueing. And you can just follow someone's eyes and know which one they went to first.
Right.
And I mean, that's really, kind of advanced dementia. But um, I think it also, you've heard me say this a million times, Scott, but I think sometimes we're limited only by our lack of creativity, because there's many things we can do. Dignity to me is empowerment. Dignity to me is recognition of value in that person. Many folks talk of quality of life. I don't use that term because I don't really quite know what it means, but I do know what it means to have a meaningful experience every day.
Well, and
Meaningful.
and I think too that when you're caring for someone with dementia, there are going to be, it's inevitable, there are going to be circumstances and instances where there are awkward or embarrassing situations socially, and still that person is deserving of dignity. It's a
Absolutely.
tricky road to navigate.
Very tricky. It's a balance beam of sorts, isn't it?
Hmm. Right.
And I think we also, as very astute care partners, we try to guide ourselves and our loved ones away from situations where they may end up being somewhat embarrassed or not kind of following what they used to be able to follow
Mm.
socially. And that doesn't mean you withdraw, but it means that maybe what you do is, instead of a surprise birthday party with 20 people, it's done at a four top. There's
There
four
you
people
go.
there,
There
and
you go.
things like that, and letting the restaurant know ahead of time. My beloved has dementia, and she's not drinking alcohol now, but she may ask for some. If you could bring her some non-alcoholic, blah blah blah. There's ways that we can prep for that so that we can avoid some of the T-boning.
Absolutely. Carol Taylor is our guest today. She and I are both members of the professional support team for Wyoming Dementia Together. We're talking about our program schedule for now through June of 2025. We mentioned that on February 12th, we're going to be talking about the effects of social isolation and loneliness. March 12th, dignity in dementia care and aging etiquette. March 26th, we're going to be talking about the importance of an early dementia diagnosis. And I can tell you that for me, this is one that I wish I would have known about 18 years ago, because when my wife was diagnosed, because she was so young, the medical staff, the support team, was understandably reluctant to pin such a permanent, harsh diagnosis, dementia diagnosis, on her at such an early age. And so it took a while before we really knew that we were dealing with early onset Alzheimer's. So we can say we know that there is importance in an early diagnosis.
Absolutely, Scott. And I recall hearing about your journey, you and Mona, and how barren the landscape was back in the day
Mhm.
in terms of access to resources, information, and diagnostics, quite honestly. Um, People say to me sometimes, if it's Alzheimer's, it's Alzheimer's. I mean, why do you have to get a diagnosis of that? If it looks like that, then that's what it is. It's very uninformed talking, because there's many, many conditions where dementia is present. I made this umbrella one time of dementia and then all the different things that can manifest dementia. Alzheimer's is one of them, but there's about 16 or 18 other things. Some of them are treatable. And if we just slap a label on someone, we meaning society, sometimes well intentioned but uninformed medical folks, if we just put Alzheimer's on it, then we stop looking for what else it could be.
Mhm.
And that, to me, is probably the primary reason that I am gung ho on early diagnosis. And I don't know that I can remember a family member um, that said, this just started a couple weeks ago. No, once they know
Mhm.
that there's some brain change going on, the families will say, I've been noticing things for about 3 or 4 years, but I always attributed it to, well, she's really stressed right now because it's a new school year starting, or, well, the holidays really wipe her out. That's probably why she's
Mhm.
tired, and, those kinds of things. And that's all normal. That isn't, we're missing something, but we justify behaviors. And when there's a preponderance of these things that are happening, then it's time to look for an assessment from someone who's trained as a neurocognitive neurologist.
You brought up something that I was just going to touch on, that when we talk about the importance of an early diagnosis, it's not all on the shoulders of the medical and professional team, because the caregivers, the families, they have to be able to make that initial step and seek out a diagnosis or try to find out what the problem is, because as you mentioned, there are numerous different conditions that it could be.
Yes, absolutely. One that I won't go into a lot of detail, but one of the my favorite umbrella spokes is normal pressure hydrocephalus. This has a very acute onset, cognitive changes, acute incontinence of urine, loss of balance, and it just slams people. All of a sudden, it's happening. And those are the three hallmarks of that condition. Well, I've witnessed this myself with several clients. I hardly believed it until I saw
Mm.
it.
Yeah.
And the treatment for that to diagnose it is to withdraw spinal fluid with a lumbar puncture. And often people within 2 hours are back to baseline. Now, that's not the end of the story. They may need to have a shunt put into their noggin so they drain fluid. It could be just a long term, one time accumulation. But if a doctor doesn't know about normal pressure hydrocephalus that's treatable, we miss big opportunities. So I think that's just important to keep in mind to underscore the importance of diagnosis. And, Alzheimer's very much is a disease of ruling out
Yes.
that it's thyroid, ruling out it's an electrolyte imbalance, ruling out, all these other conditions. And sometimes you have to be a real advocate for your loved one to have a doctor take the time and effort to rule out all of these other things that could be treatable, even reversible.
And then on May 21st, we're going to cover a topic that we've had some requests for. And again, it's another topic that I have never seen addressed anywhere, and that is long distance caring,
Yeah,
family
yeah.
members in the circle of care. How do you go about caring for a parent in Nebraska or Montana or Florida somewhere?
Right.
How do you do that by long distance? And I think that's a really interesting, really important subject that we'll be tackling.
Yeah, it's interesting that you're bringing that up because it's one of the things I love is to get calls from somebody that lives here and their loved ones are in New York or whatever, and they say, I have no idea how to try to
Mhm.
get some in-home support, how to do this, how to do that. Should I talk to my mom about it? Should I just have somebody go to the house? No, it's really difficult. It's hard
How
enough
to speak to
being
the professional medical staff?
right, right,
Yeah.
right, right.
Hmm.
There's many, many avenues. Usually I will ask a family, who is the most influential person in your loved one's life right now? It could be a doctor, it could be a priest or a pastor or a rabbi. It could be the neighbor two doors down. So I want to know who has influence with that person. The other thing I can give people, and I do this readily, is I give them the name of how to get local information through their area agency on aging. And every county has one. Wyoming opted out many years ago and really revisit it, which galls me. But anyway, we
Yeah.
bushwhack on. But there are resources in most every community, even the tiny, tiny little communities, because they fall within a service area. And caring from a distance is a whole different scene because I mean it's like worrying from a distance, right?
Great
So
way to put it.
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And it's so prevalent that many years ago I was asked to start a support group in Jackson, and it was called Caring from a Distance. And we had packed houses for those support group meetings
Yeah.
monthly because things change and then we share information with each other. I found the center or the senior center didn't have a whole lot of information, but they gave me two numbers of other clearinghouses for seniors in the area, and that really helps. So it's a vitally important topic, and there are things that we can do. There really is something for everybody, even if it's not being on site doing 12-hour-a-day shifts with your loved one, but you're kind of second string, but you can still contribute fully to the experience of the dementia journey in a family.
You can see that we have a busy schedule of programs coming up between now and through June of 2025 on Wyoming Dementia Together. And these programs are every other Wednesday at 10:30 Mountain Time. Down in the description box below, you'll be able to find the links where you can go and sign up for those programs. We say sign up, we just send you the link to the Zoom call like this one that you can participate in. But again, on February 12th, we'll be talking about the effects of social isolation and loneliness. March 12th, dignity in dementia care and aging etiquette. March 26th, dementia, the importance of early diagnosis. And then May 21st, long distance care. And we'll have programs every other Wednesday. Those are just some of the ones that we have highlighted in this particular program with my good friend Carol Taylor. Carol, always a pleasure. Thanks so much. And it's going to be a great time. We're looking forward to the programs, and we invite you to join us on these programs coming up. You've been watching once again a YouTube video presentation of the University of Wyoming Center on Aging. We hope, if you haven't done so already, that you'll subscribe to the channel and hit that thumbs up like button. Both of those actions help the channel to grow and allow us to reach more people. And if you'll tap that notification bell, you'll be alerted each time we upload a new video. Thanks so much for being with us. I'm Scott Veach. We'll see you again next time.